Greetings, watchers of Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things. Today we're going to be talking about annealing cartridge brass to keep it from cracking longer. Cartridge brass that's reloaded often develops what's called work hardness or work hardening, and the more you shoot it and resize it, the more brittle it gets. So there's a process called annealing which restores flexibility to the case mouth, which is where most cartridge brass cracks after several uses. I have an example here of one that cracked elsewhere. This is a 45 Colt case, and you can see the dark area there. That's where it let go. Inside the chamber of the gun, it didn't harm the gun at all. Just normal load, normal pressures, but after a while the cartridge brass weakens and sometimes you get a blow through like that. Most often cartridge brass will crack at the case mouth, and so you'll get a crack along here, right at the very edge where the bullet goes in. That's not the case with this one. I believe I have some pictures of some that did crack that way. The mouth of the 45 Colt, also called 45 Long Colt, cartridge case is particularly weak for some reason. It only takes 2 to 3 reloadings with standard pressure loads for a crack to develop at the case mouth. However, I've found over the years through experience that annealing the case mouth of the 45 Long Colt will extend the cartridge case life by twice at least, sometimes 3 or 4 times. I've gotten as many as 8, 10, or 12 reloadings of a single cartridge case that I have annealed every 3rd or 4th shot. So let's demonstrate that process. First thing we need is a propane torch for the way I do it. And this is just a regular brazing torch and a lighter. So it will strike a small flame on it. And the flame is going. Next thing I do is take the candidate case. I have 50 of them here that I shot yesterday and polished in my tumbler, and they don't have any cracks that I know of. If I do, I'll discard them. But in order to prevent cracks from developing, I just hold them in a pair of pliers and rotate just the forward 1/8 of an inch or so in the flame until it gets red. You may not be able to see it get red, but I will. Oftentimes another clue is it'll incur a brownish burnishing ring right there. You may be able to see that burnished area just toward the case head from the case mouth, about 1/4 of an inch. When that happens, I know it's been annealed enough. If you shoot commercially loaded rifle ammunition, you'll almost always notice a brown ring like that down below the mouth of the case, which means that the brass was annealed prior to the bullet being seated in it. Again, we have a burnished area on the case mouth, so that tells me that's enough. Some people have methods of annealing cartridge brass that differ from what I'm doing, and they're welcome to use their methods, of course. Mine works fine for me. You'll find some will line up all the cases in a small cookie sheet type operation and then flame them all. The bottom of the cookie sheet is filled with water so they don't get too hot down around the case head. I say if it works, why fix it? I'm just rotating the case mouth in the flame. I start seeing that brown ring form right about where the case cantilever is, and that tells me that it's done. Now I drop these cases onto a pizza pan so they can cool rather than quench them in water. It seems to work pretty good. Whoa, got it too hot too long. After these have cooled off, I'm going to put them back in the vibratory tumbler, tumble off some of the burnishing areas. Sometimes I'll leave it on there so I know that I'm shooting burnished brass. Other times I clean it. But I'll label the packet or the bullet box that I put it in annealed brass so that I know that these rounds have been processed. And can be fired 2 or 3 more times before it has to be done again. I don't anneal very often any other brass except 45 Colt because I don't have a problem with cracking cases in any other caliber. As an example, I've been shooting 380s in one platform or another for 35 years, 40 years. Only once have I ever had a 380 case mouth split, and that was, oddly enough, last week. So, I had a split last week. I threw that case away. So I let these air cool. I have a hot pad underneath the pizza pan there so it doesn't mar the surface of this valuable antique TV tray that I'm using. Ha-ha, ho-ho, hee-hee. There you can see the rings start to form just below the cantilever. In my experience, that's all you need. These cases will last many times longer than cases that are not annealed. And with cartridge brass costing as much as it does these days, I can't afford to buy anymore. So what I have on hand is what I'll have for the rest of my life probably. Takes about 2 turns or so to make them get that burnished ring. I used to do this by holding on to the cartridge case with my fingers, but I ended up getting burned a few times because they get pretty hot. Brass is a metal that conducts heat very well, and so it gets hot fast, it cools off fast, but you don't want to handle it when it's hot. So I find the pliers do a better job, at least concerning how comfortable it is for my hands to hold them. Whatever method you choose to use, whether you anneal the case mounts like I am, or you put the cartridges standing case mouth up in a pan of water and just heat the case mounts and let the water quench the rest of the case. Pretty much up to you. The important part is taking away the work hardening of the brass so that you can get more reloading out of each round. And so on. There's a little closer view. You can see that brown ring forming. Sometimes it gets brown close to the case mouth, and I don't worry too much about that. I want that brown ring down there by the cantilever. See all the crap that's on that one? That's dirt from the firing. And that'll come off when I tumble it. If it doesn't, so what? I'm more interested in the cases lasting a long time than looking really pretty. Pretty is nice, and enough of them turn out that way, but that's not the main reason why we do this. I once did a trial to see how many times I could fire cases that had not been annealed versus had been annealed. Brand new cases started out, half of them after I fired them once I annealed them, and I annealed them every other time. The other half I just reloaded and shot again. And of the half that had never been annealed, I would lose anywhere from 1 to 3 cases to cracking in the case mouth every time I reloaded and fired them. So the best I got out of them was maybe 3 to 4 shots at standard loadings. The ones I annealed didn't show any signs of case cracking ever, and I still have some of them. Okay, that's 50 of them. So there they are, 50. If I were to pick up this pizza pan, feel underneath it, it's quite hot. So the heat from the annealed cases is dispersing into the pizza pan. Over near the middle it's very hot. It would burn you to put your finger on it. Let them cool for half an hour or so, and then I'll throw them into the vibratory case polishing drum and polish them for about an hour, and they'll be ready to go. There's the vibratory case tumbler. I'll take the lid off it. In the bottom you can see the ballast that I keep in there. 30-06 shells and 30-30 shells, and what they do is they form extra hard material to rub against the corncob media and also against the shells that I want to have polished. So here's the 45 shells that I just annealed, and we're going to put them in. And of course one always falls away from where you want it to go. I think there's a law about that, it has to. So we'll get our corncob media, throw that in there. Turn it on. New polished media to that not long ago, and we'll put the lid back on. For some reason tumbler quit working. I don't know why that is. Yeah. Well, it might be time for it to go back to Cabela's if I can find the receipt. They have a lifetime warranty on their stuff, so we'll see how that goes. But imagine that it worked. I would have tumbled it for an hour or so and they'd be all clean. So that'll do it for this edition of Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things. Hope that was helpful, seeing one more way of annealing brass and a little explanation about why it works in one man's experience. Have a good one out there. Stay safe, take care, and enjoy the summer.